Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns. This is episode 7, word to formal, as we are back and we are doing our season predictions for the NL and AL West. My name is Tej, my co hosts for the night. Once again, Will, John, and Bobby. Boys, this should be a night full of some takes, I'm sure, because Will has been chomping at the bit all night. Like he is ready for a fight tonight, and I think we're gonna have some fireworks.
His
to say the
fists
least.
are taped.
If I can find my
gloves
time
are on.
to jump on John like right now, I will.
Hey,
take
yo.
What did I do?
That's a little
I
crazy.
didn't do anything yet.
Exactly. I mean, my goodness. All right.
Go, Bobby.
We're not going to
Go.
waste any time. We are going to get right into it. We are starting with the NL West, and we are starting with the runners up in the last World Series. It's the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks make the improbable run. I don't want to say improbable, but they make a crazy run last year, and nobody really expected them to be there. They're back. I think they're looking better than they were last season, based on the lineup, projected lineup going into this year. And this should be a team that, look, it's going to be hard. We're going to bring up the Dodgers ad nauseum, I think, throughout the season because they are the benchmark. It's going to be hard for teams to compete with the Dodgers in this division, but I do think the Diamondbacks are going to be a really good team. So
I agree,
even
though I'm the Phillies fan and I should hate them with all my guts. But
by the way,
they are a good team.
I just wanted to say, this is so off topic, but did you see that the Diamondbacks are doing their World Series rings in August when the Phillies come to town? Like, they're unveiling them to the players.
Wow.
It's so petty.
Petty. That is petty.
Wait, hold. You're saying they're National League Championship rings?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
They're giving them when the I think it's like August.
That's
15th.
the part that's petty as PG.
Yeah.
Because if the Phillies are playing them in April, I 100% agree. Sure,
no, it's
petty, whatever. But it's April. If it's August, they are gonna rub their nose into it and fill face forever. Which is great. Which is funny because my prediction probably will include a rematch Phillies Diamondbacks World Series postseason in the first round in the wild card series. So that's going to be crazy. And odds are Phillies will probably host it if that's the case. So that'll just be like prime time entertainment for a 3-game series.
I will say the Diamondbacks are asking for some bad juju doing that. Like if they do face them in the playoffs again, they're asking for it. But let's start with them. Again, a team that should be getting better after last year. I mean, Corbin Carroll is obviously back for another year, and he will continue to grow. They get Jock Peterson that they bring in. He'll play at the DH spot. I think this is a very underrated signing. Kind of a weird one, but I think he's going to eat up all that right-handed pitching in that division. And also they get Eugenio Suarez in at third base. So you take the team that you had last year that exceeded expectations, you bring in some pieces, and their pitching got better as well. They bring in Erod as well to solidify that rotation. So this is a team that's looking better than they did last year, and you would hope that they can improve on that, and we'll see if they end up doing. But Will, I'll go to you first. What are you thinking about this Diamondbacks roster?
I did believe they were going to be a team that would surprise last year. I didn't think that 84 wins would get you into the playoffs, but I did have them at 83, 84 win mark last year. In 2022, they looked like a team that was on the rise, and they took a big leap last year getting to the World Series. Have they filled up every hole that they had perfectly? No, but Suarez is a big upgrade over Longoria. Peterson will definitely provide some pop versus right-handed pitching at the DH spot, something the team didn't really have last year a whole lot in power. And actually, I believe they were slightly below league average offensively. And then pitching-wise, Erod will absolutely strengthen that rotation. The number 5 spot's going to be a competition on which young guy takes it. So they are, and given that the division, I feel like is got a lot of teams with a lot of holes aside from the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks seem to be in a prime spot to kind of take second place as their own and try to push for a first wild card spot.
And not to mention with them, they have depth as well. And, it's a lot of younger guys, right? But they do have depth in the positions where, it's guys that are proving themselves. We've seen it last year. I mean, Alec Thomas had a pretty good run. Perdomo had a good run at times in the season, especially in the postseason. So, again, a lineup that has the potential to be better. I'm also curious, and I don't know if anything has come out about this since, but Jordan Lawler being there with that team, I don't know if he's staying in the big leagues or what's happening there. But again, they also have a nice back end as well. I know, Bobby, you'll love that. A nice back end as well with Paul Sewald in the pen. John, any thoughts about this?
Demonetized.
I mean, listen, team. There's nothing wrong with a good back end, Tyler. There's nothing wrong with
the back ends, buddy.
Anyway, I think the Diamondbacks, with their brand spanking new threads, they to have 4 guys that hit over 20 home runs, one close to 30, another one close to 20 as well, and Jock Peterson at 19 projected home runs, with Christian Walker projected at 28. So, when it comes to the National League, especially the NL West, and you look at who is the second place team in that division, and who are the wild card teams in that league, you really got to look at, what was that? you really got to look at everything. And all right, that's enough out of you. You really got to look at everything, and you got to look at just the Diamondbacks really reached last year. They really went above and beyond. I don't see them doing the same thing this coming season. I really don't. I could see them being the second wild card team and getting bounced in either the first or second round, and it just comes down to it. But it's still a good season. Let's put it that way.
I will say with the Diamondbacks, the one thing is that they almost exceeded expectations last year. Bobby, you're having too much fun already tonight. We're 8 minutes into this episode. Relax.
It's going to be a long night for us, boys.
It is going to be a long night. Look, they exceeded expectations last year. Is there a chance that they come to this year and make miss the playoffs? Absolutely. I do think they will make the playoffs, but I think we have to taper down the expectations a little bit, just because of, okay, we're looking at this team post World Series berth, but again, I think there's we might be setting the bar a little too high with them. Still a really good team, but I just, to John's point, I don't know. Did they make a postseason run again this year? Maybe, but I see them.
I don't see them making another run. I don't see them making another run to the World Series. I see them making it maybe to the divisional round, but I mean, I also didn't see them getting out of the wild card last year. So, I mean, if there's one thing that's proven, once you get in the playoffs, the records don't matter anymore. You know, home field, I'm sure matters to these players to an extent, but it comes down to who wants it more, who has a little bit of luck, and who has, the depth, really. When it comes down to it, amongst other factors, but those are the 3 that I can really tailor as far as off the top of my head thinking about. But yeah, when you look at their projections from Pacoda has them at 84 wins. Fangraphs has them at 83. 83 wins. That's good enough to get into the wild card spot. I see Corbin Carroll continuing to eventually become the face of that franchise. He's going to lead. He's projected to lead the team in batting average. they just got a special player out there. Oh, excuse me, not lead team in batting average, but still, they got a special player out there, and this guy, to say that he is the future of that organization is just an understatement. So when it comes to the Diamondbacks, it's just going to get better. I don't know if a World Series ring is in their future. It might be. It might not be. We'll have to wait and see.
They get a World Series ring. Every other team in the National League keeled over and died.
Yeah. Well, look, I think if you do,
you're just mad because they're getting their league rings when you guys are in town.
He's sour.
They chose to get in August. Give it to him. Whatever.
That is petty.
I'll complain about it then.
Petty. That is very petty.
Well, that's a later argument.
Yes, this will come up later. Looking at the NL teams, you have to. The Dodgers are going to win that division. You look at the wild card teams they're going to be up against. Okay, you're going to have one of the Braves or Phillies probably from the NL East. So that's one wild card team. If you look at the other teams, I mean, you would have put them up there as, out of the rest of them, a top 2 team, which would put them in a wild card spot. I do think that they have a decent chance. Let's move over to the least exciting team in this division, the Colorado Rockies. Will, is there anything positive you have to say about them?
Nope. Move on.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
I have nothing. They're going to be worse than they were last year, and probably the worst team in baseball this year. They're in just the biggest hitter-friendly park, and they're throwing out underarm. Like, they're lobbing it to all the hitters. It's like, come on, there's going to be a home run derby versus this team. Their team ERA is like
they're projected less than 60 wins. This is stupid.
Would you say this is batting practice?
I have them at
55. It's batting practice out there in Coors Field. I agree with you, Will. I do have them as the having the lowest wins this season. I will say, as a silver lining, yes.
If I may, I want to give
raise your
odds right now.
Raise your hand. We're in
raise
school.
My hand?
Yes. John.
Class is in session.
I want to get the Vegas odds. So, for right now, the Diamondbacks are slated in at definitely at second place in that division. Just to go back to them real quick, but the Rockies, FanDuel has them at plus 20,000. Definitely not ranking them very high. Let's put it that way.
That means if you bet $5 on them, you lose $5. Good to know. All right. Moving on to
yeah.
I will say this. I'll say this little thing. Nolan Jones is probably the one thing that the team can look forward to this year. If there's anything, he was a nice shining rising star last year. You should only be getting better this year. That's about it. If you want to have it be not a complete crap fest. That's
the other player
too. Look forward to.
Nolan Jones, I agree with. Also, if he can stay healthy, which is saying something for him, I think Brendan Rodgers takes a step this year. But it's going to be about health. And I don't like bringing that up for players, but really his track record has not been great on the injury front. So I think you're looking at those two, Nolan Jones especially, but Brendan Rodgers, I think at one point, I believe he was like a top 5 prospect at one point a couple years ago and had a lot of high hopes. Obviously didn't pan out as well. He's still a major league player, but looking for more of an impact. And we'll see if that happens this year. Let's move over now to the Dodgers, as if we haven't talked about them enough. Again, a team that we will consistently bring up as a benchmark. Yes, the team that
keep it moving here. We know where it's going to end up. Tej.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. We talked about them. They are the favorites to win the World Series. What a surprise! They will win the division. I have no doubts about that. I think at this point, it's how many wins we put them at. Will, did you have a projection for how many wins?
So I have them at 110 right now.
I had them at the same thing. Yep.
The 116 they had 2 years ago or last year or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, that was insane, and I do see a reality where they get 120, but they're gonna blow past the 100 mark. What is the number one record like all time? I know it varies because you have like win
Most
percentage
wins.
is different because of years.
Let's take a
Sure,
look.
let's go by wins in this case. Who can be the first one to find it?
You got to fill. You got to fill for me. Most wins in an MLB season.
Let's put it this way: their Vegas odds to win the World Series, from Bet365 are plus 400. Everyone else is plus 350s, except for FanDuel that is plus 320, and then BetMGM is plus 360. So you look at these, and then just to win the NL West, they are favorited at minus 600 and even as low as minus 375. Just the Dodgers and themselves are just ridiculous. It's if everything goes according to plan, there's no reason that they can't reach 120 wins and eclipse the 116 that they once had.
Wow. There's not going to throw out the excuse that Dave Roberts screws them, John.
I mean, he does, but that's not in the regular season.
If someone's going to destroy the team and it's not going to be injuries, it's going to be the manager because there's like no other real reason why
there's no other reason
fall off a cliff.
It's
this is as good a time as any is to unveil our new branding that we're going to have on our Twitter. It's going to be We Hate Dave Roberts, and it's just going to be a constant feed of whenever he loses, just putting the stupidest picture we can find of him every single time. And then anytime they do anything, we're just going to continue to post pictures. Like, I just think that that's where we're headed at this point as a company. It feels right. Don't you think, guys? I mean, I think that's just the right talking point here.
I'll tell you what, Bobby. I'll take it one step further. I will come on this show and I will laugh like Nelson from The Simpsons. When they lose. That. It won't be that often, so we won't have to worry about that.
Yeah. So you'll do it like 40 times. Like
yeah, I won't even do it that many times.
By the way, to wrap up our point on that, Dodgers in 2022 actually went 111-51. The best the most wins of all time is a tie between a couple teams. The 1998 Yankees at 100,
right?
Yep. Tie between two teams. The 2001 Mariners, 116-46. The 1906 Cubs, where were we at for that one? 116-36. The 1998 Yankees, 114-48. By the way, the only team in the top 5, it looks like, that had that many wins and actually won the World Series. So interesting point there. But yes, the Dodgers would be dominant. They will win the division. They will be a contender. Let's move on to the Padres, which Padres are a little bit weird. I mean, such a huge contender a few years ago. They still have some of that star power, but a lot of people not talking about the Padres. Do we need to start talking about them is the question.
Yes.
I think so.
Point.
By the way, when I lead with that, it's one of you should pick that up.
No.
Just saying.
No, I answered your question. Now you take it back. No, here's my thing with the Padres, because I was really unsure of where to put them in the standings, because they really underperformed last year for a lot of the season, but they did have that insane run in the last month of the season that kind of saved their record. It finished at 82-80 and did keep them in the wild card hunt for a little while. But sure, they do have Tatis and Machado and Darvish and Musgrove leading the rotation, but they lost a ton of star power and they underperformed last year. They've lost Soto, Blake Snell, Josh Hader, and then they've lost Waka, Lugo, Grisham, Gary Sanchez. And their additions, pitching-wise, they've added Michael King now to the rotation, Matsui and Wuksuko for the bullpen, as well as De Los Santos. But offensively, they've done nothing. And I have to admit, when I look past the top 4 in the order, which most likely will be a combination of Ha-Seong Kim, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado, I do not fear this Padres team whatsoever in the bottom half. So they really need Tatis to step up. They need Bogaerts to step up if they want to have any chance at fixing whatever drought they had last year, getting back into the postseason, because that final wild card spot is kind of up for grabs in the National League. There's probably 3 or 4 teams right now that could potentially take it. But the Padres are really on that bubble, and I don't see them doing much better than what they did last year.
I don't see them doing anything really. When it comes down to it, Padres are a team of eyes, not we's, and that means when I say that, I'm saying they are not playing for one another; they are playing for themselves and their contracts. So when you look at,
I do have one question for you, John.
Okay.
Last year, a big thing for the team was that Tatis had come back, and of course, there was all that drama surrounding Tatis with the suspension for PEDs. Do you think that hurt the team last year, and maybe a reason why they underperformed, or maybe why Tatis didn't put up as well numbers as the previous season? And the second part to that question, if you do think it was a distraction, do you think that's something that will no longer be a factor going into this year, or is that something that will always kind of linger over the organization as long as, or at least until he's proven that he can do it, aside from maybe what PEDs helped him with?
Honestly, I think that it was a distraction. I think, definitely early on in the season, we saw it, when he first came back, it was, all the steroid chants or the PED chants, whatever it was, the fans were giving them. So, and then you had the big distractions of like the pressure of, you guys have no reason to be bad and you're underperforming. What is going on? So that definitely, I think, was a factor in their heads. And I'm going to continue my point because it answers this. I still think the Padres are an underachieving team, and I think that they aren't playing for their team; they're playing for themselves. And when it comes down to it, those brown uniforms come October are not going to be on your TV screens. I think that their projections,
they don't look good anyway.
Are yeah, especially the pinstripe ones. No, but when you look at their projections, they're projected to be a 500 team. I could see them as a 75 win team. I don't even think they're going to reach 500.
Really, you don't think they're even going to reach 500? That one I will disagree with. I have them at 83 right now.
I just don't. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think they're very underachieving, and I don't think that they're going to be as successful as people think.
Mm-hmm.
I
guess, Tyler, do you like the pitching on that
team?
That's
the issue. That's the issue with them. Like, if they keep a guy like, I know he was a Cy Young winner last year, but like, if they keep Snell or even add somebody like, hey, Jordan Montgomery's still out there, this team I actually think is a legit playoff team. But right now, they're pitching. I mean, they're 4 and 5 are just not up to par with some of these other teams. And I mean, to be honest, like, what Musgrove do we get? Like, Musgrove's been really good the past 2 years, but can he be that ace for them that they need? And I personally think they need another big arm to help guys like Musgrove to take some of the load off, like Darvish. I don't think Snell is an option to go back, obviously, but maybe a trade deadline acquisition later down the line in July. Maybe that sets them up if they're in a good spot. Let's move on to our last team so we can get into our predictions, though. The San Francisco Giants made a lot of noise this offseason. A lot of additions. Just signed Matt Chapman, which we talked about in our video we made the other day. And the team looks like it's coming together. Obviously, some pieces still missing. Another team where you can look at starting pitching and say, we need some help there. But Giants, again, one of those teams where you can, they're in that wild card conversation. Like, they're around that 500 mark, or they were last year. You can kind of see them probably around that number again. John, I'll go to you first this time. Any thoughts on the Giants coming into the season?
Well, right now they're in talks, or they're in the conversation of potentially signing Snell. So I think that our predictions honestly could change depending on that. But I think that you really had the nail on the head there. The Giants, I think, are making the proper steps to try and keep up in the wild card race. Obviously, they're not going to win the division. I don't like that race is done in February. No, we're in March. Excuse me. That race is done in March. So when it comes down to it, you gotta look at it like this: the Giants, they're competing for a wild card spot. I could see them taking that last wild card spot, if not just below it, and maybe just missing this year, but definitely in the future. I think they're making the positive steps, going in the right direction here.
All right, so yeah, I think Snell is a big part of that as well. If they get him, your outlook on that changes because you get your guy. Looking at their lineup outside of pitching, I mean, they've had additions. You're kind of getting an unknown quantity with I'm blanking on his name right now. Why can I not remember it? Jung Ho Lee. So, obviously they have high expectations for him, but you don't know with him. They do sign Soler, which I like, but what are your expectations with this lineup?
So a couple days ago, we had a quick vid that we released talking about the Chapman.
Go check that out on
signing partially. And I had said during that video that I saw the goal, like win total wise, to probably get a wild card spot as 88 wins. And that the Giants were just short of that. And I'm gonna partially recant on that number a little bit after looking at the other teams in the National League. I do think 88 typically would be a good number to reach for making the playoffs, but there's a lot of underperforming teams in the National League, or at least that I think will underperform. And I think the Giants right now, offensively, if they can get closer productions from Soler and Chapman than what they did last year or the last 2 years, that should be able to put them enough over the top. I see Lee being a good solid 280s, 290s hitter at the top of the order, all about contact first, striking out later. And then after that, I see a lot of mixing and matching platoon-wise between Wade, Conforto, was it Yastrzemski, Flores in the lineup, and I do see that benefiting them. Do they still have a lot of question marks offensively? Sure. Soler could have a fault year like he did his first year with the Marlins. Chapman could be a 220s hitter and barely hit 20 home runs, even though he has good defense. But the team, I think, has done enough to prevent a potential late season collapse like last year and slip into the last wild card spot, probably fighting the Cubs like they did last year. And I do kind of like the pitching enough. And I say that just because even with the loss of Beck recently, which is going to be, I believe, a couple months, they really need to hang tight for May, for when Alex Cobb comes back, and then they'll gradually be getting, like, they'll get Cobb, he'll pitch for like a month and a half, and then they get Ray back. So if the young guys like Harrison and Wynn can step up, I absolutely think the team can sneak into the playoffs in the final wild card spot. But I would like for them maybe to get one extra addition offensively. I just don't know which hole they'll need to fill, and that'll be a deadline move.
Yeah, and you're right about the pitching. They get Robbie Ray back later in the season. But again, I mean, as John said, if they can land a guy like Snell, like this, I think that would be a big swing. And taking my prediction from, okay, maybe a wild card team to like, yeah, I think they could definitely be a wild card team at that point. Let's get into our predictions for the division. I guess I'll lead it off. I'll go first here. I have the Dodgers winning the division. Surprise, surprise, 110 wins. Second place,
I even need to say who we all think wins the division.
Well, it's given, but I got to say it anyway. Second, I have the D-backs. I have them at 85 wins. I went third. I went back and forth with big time. Oh, by the way, I have the D-backs getting the wild card spot. Third and fourth, I went back with like over and over. So here's my thing with the Padres. I think yes, they lost a lot of pieces. They lost a lot of important pieces. But I do think that there's still something there. Here's my bold prediction for the year. I think the NL MVP comes down to Ronald Acuna or Tatis. I think Tatis has a huge year. And I think he carries them. Does he carry them enough to make the playoffs? It's tough to say. In my original predictions, I had the Padres at 83 wins, and I had the Giants at 79. But I don't know. Like John said, if they can, it's really going to come down to if they add a piece in the pitching rotation for me. I think the Giants rotation right now is just not great to start the year, and I think that'll determine it. So for my prediction, I will say Padres third, Giants fourth, Rockies fifth with 55 wins is what I have them at. Will, let's go to you next.
I have some similar things in my predictions as well. Easy, Dodgers win the division. I have them at 110 wins. I have the Diamondbacks second at 89 wins, getting the second wild card spot. And then like you, I went back and forth a lot between the Giants and Padres, and I went with the Giants in third with 84 wins, and the Padres in fourth with 83 wins. And then the Rockies rounding it out with 55 wins as well, finishing last. Thing about the Padres is I don't like their pitching. That's the biggest thing. Their offense does not scare me anymore behind the top four, like I said. In the lineup, I don't really see the pitching panning out really at all around. I mean, I don't think Darvish is an ace anymore. Musgrove, if he can stay healthy, maybe. King should do fine for what he's supposed to do, being in the middle of the rotation as your three guy. They got success with Lugo last year. So even with the Giants maybe having some starting pitching questions, the fact that they finished with 79 wins, given the team they had last year, and I believe they've only made improvements, that I think that they're going to sneak up and stay in the race enough so when they get their starting pitching back from the injury list, then that'll be enough to propel them into potentially the last wild card spot. And the only reason I say potential is at the moment I have them tied with the Cubs for the last wild card spot. But since I haven't really done a deep dive into the NL Central or East, I don't want to confirm the final wild card spot just yet.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. You bring up the point with Padres. That is my concern. The pitching, like I said, they would also be a team that would benefit, and this is why I still can't believe these guys aren't signed, because like these are two. We talked about already, Montgomery and Snell. Like those are two really good pitchers out there, and there's a lot of teams that I do feel like are a pitcher away from being contenders. Maybe not like the Padres, like that slow down a little bit, but like we're talking about the Phillies, right? Like if the Phillies add Snell, you go from a really good contender to like an elite contender because you have three really good starting pitchers. So it's surprising they're still out there. However, though, I do think, as you said, the pitching for the Padres is going to be interesting. Machado as well, like, is he going to continue to kind of regress? I mean, he has his moments, but obviously not the player he once was. And then, like I said, I do think Tatis has a big year, and I really see him carrying the team.
Did Machado ever reach that benchmark that people projected him with?
I mean, he had high expectations.
Did he ever hit that? Yeah,
he was one of the obviously best defensive third baseman in the league, as at his time. Like it was him and Arenado, but there has been questions, and the time with the Padres has been very bumpy. Like we've also seen like some temper issues with him that seem to be like a thing every year. Like it's a headline like, oh, he blew up again, and is the team falling apart, and kind of talked about before with like the team culture and stuff. And
I don't think there's a leader on that team though. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
I think that's a big thing is what they're missing. They don't really have that clubhouse guy that is like their leader.
You had that with Hosmer for a little
evidence
bit.
that it's there.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, you had that with Hosmer, but like he's obviously gone, and he was. You could say he was their leader, but also he wasn't playing that great. So like, yeah, I think it comes.
Right.
You know, you take it with a grain of salt. I feel like if okay, I get vet guys and whatever, blah blah blah. But like, if you have a really solid player who is that voice, I think that does propel teams. And I think you might be right about that, but like I said, I still think I really think Tatis is going to have a monster year and propel.
I'm looking at Machado's stats right now for the last few years. To answer your question, John, Machado has put up what I can describe as above average numbers. The question is, has he reached that elite level? And especially because he signed that extension to his already lucrative contract with the Padres. A year or two ago. He's finished top 3 in MVP voting twice. In the 5 years he's been with the team. In 2022 he was the runner-up. In 2020 he was third. And arguably his best year was probably 2020 at least.
I think his issue is just
304 with 16 home runs. He's no longer the Gold Glover. At least he hasn't won it since 2015 with the Orioles.
Yeah. Machado's issue, I think, his temper. I think his maturity hasn't shown itself. Not enough for him to be a leader, at least. And this is a guy that was projected to be, the best baseball player since, I mean, maybe since Alex Rodriguez at the time, and look at what happened with A-Rod. I think it's the same thing with Machado. They're both underachieving, and at least A-Rod, he was on the 2009 Yankees, right? Yeah, at least he has a ring.
Yes.
So
he also has some other things going on with him, but that's nor here nor there.
Yeah, but when it comes down to
but
it,
I do agree. I think that was a player comp that Machado had, and he has had those big years, but he's entering his what? How old is he this year? I mean, he is starting to get up there. Yeah, and not he's not ancient. Don't get me wrong, but
no, he's not
starting to get up there.
He's not the young guy he once was. Central role. He's turning into a
you think so?
Role. Yes, and I think
I could see Tatis more hitting. I could see Tatis
led all of baseball last year in defensive runs saved with an absurd number. And
I understand that, but
there's
I'm talking about
no way they're taking him out of the field.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think that his bat is better. But I mean, granted, that was
but you'd be a DH right now because your bat is good, but your glove isn't. And if Machado is declining defensively, he's going to be the bat. So you wouldn't take Tatis out of the field.
Yeah,
and then under 80 wins.
Yeah,
Machado.
Well,
Machado entering his age 32 season. John, let's get to your predictions.
All right, I'll keep it simple. 1. I gotta agree with Vegas here. Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Giants, Padres, Rockies. I think that's my order, and I think Diamondbacks definitely wild card, and I could see the Giants sneaking in to that final wild card with 83, 84 wins. My issue with the National League is that they're very top heavy, so I could see that final wild card being very up for grabs from some lesser teams than the upper top tier.
One thing I actually want to mention, Will, I'll pose this question to you. Giants, we've talked about all their acquisitions and this and that. They get a new manager this year, and I know you have thoughts on Gabe Kapler.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in Bob Melvin, who has obviously a pretty decent track record. Does that affect things in San Francisco?
Oh, it absolutely will affect things. I think you got to take the first month of the season or so to see if it's the ideal decision for the clubhouse, or maybe things weren't so bad under Kapler. Because as much as I diss Kapler, and really because of how he couldn't take the Phillies to the next level with them, you got to look at he did bring the Giants the 106 wins a few years ago and manager of the year, and he did keep the team in competition for a wild card spot last year before the last month or so of the season. And part of that was also because their schedule got really hard in the last month, and they were facing a lot of teams over 500, so they were just getting outmatched. So with a team right now that looks like it's starting to steer away from the platoon based on matchup scenario that Kapler was probably fond for, and going with more of like Chapman, who's going to be your third baseman, Lee will be your outfielder, Soler, DH, and so on and so forth. I would say they're going more in a traditional route with how they're putting their team together, and I do think it will benefit them. But you also got to keep in mind Melvin was manager of the Padres last year, and look what he did with that team. So it's all about how the players respond. If the clubhouse, if they seem like they're having fun, and there's talk about the clubhouse vibing and things are looking good, and it's only going to get better from there after the first month for them.
Yeah, I definitely wonder if. Let's put it this way: if Bob Melvin comes to the Giants and they do well, then I definitely think that my theory of it's a bunch of eyes on the Padres and not we's really takes merit there.
Yeah, and Bob Melvin had some great years in Oakland too, which obviously got him that job with San Diego, and it didn't work out. But this is again a pretty prestigious manager. You get him with San Francisco, and we'll see a little bit of a younger team at spots as well. And that'll wrap up our NL side of things. Let's move on to the AL West, which we will be starting with. We'll be starting with, boys. What's alphabetical?
Get the trash cans going. Get the trash cans going.
Oh,
roll call.
Yeah. I mean, we could either do the trash cans, or we could do the team whose literally initial is A.
So we have there's a team in a trash stadium, and there's a team that uses a trash can.
Right? Yeah, there's a team. You have the trash cans and the trash stadium. You take your pick.
It's funny. The thing with Oakland is I was like, all right, we're going to do the predictions. Like the Rockies, I knew we weren't going to have much on. When Oakland comes up, we're just going to talk about Vegas. I think that's the only point with them. I do think they're a better team than they were last year. But
wait a minute. Later this week, they're playing a spring training game in Vegas.
Yeah.
There's a minor league stadium there, so
they're getting themselves done, Yeah. Hey, gotta do.
This is where you're gonna be in a couple years.
Yeah, Astros keep together their core essentially, and they've been doing that for the last few years, and that's the big thing with them. They don't really lose anybody, and they add Josh Hader. So you take a really good team, you make them better. I mean, what more really is there to say? You have obviously Altuve and Bregman have been there forever, and Kyle Tucker and Jordan have just become phenomenal players over the past few years, and Jeremy Pena took over nicely for Correa. They just have the same team every year, and it's always successful. And I just don't see anything changing with this team. Will, what are your thoughts with the 2024 Astros?
I am right with you there. Their only real loss, at the moment, significant loss is Kendall Graveman because of he'll be out for the season. But as you said, they got Josh Hader, so they have absolutely filled that hole perfectly. They will be starting the season with Verlander on the IL. I don't know if it's been specified how long he might be out. I don't want to say terribly. He's just got a little bit of soreness or something, and it's slow for him ramping up. But this team is absolutely just dynamite, top to bottom, with offensively, pitching, bullpen. They did have some issues last year. It seemed like at least early on offensively. I mean, the team only finished with 90 wins last year, ended up tying with the Rangers, of course, getting the tiebreaker, and ultimately the division. But so I guess there is that you have to look at. Yes, they've had the team core group together for a while. is the team potentially, or at least some of the players that have been around for a while, past their primes, or did they just take a simple step back last year? They're going to be right back into it this year and just take off again. And I tend to lean towards the latter. I see them, I don't want to say handily, but I do see a decent bit of separation between them and the Mariners and Rangers and taking first place this year.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of look at the core pieces again of these other teams in their division, and the Rangers are obviously mostly the same. But like, you look at the Mariners, and like, they're a team that I think has so much potential. However, they lost a couple pretty big pieces. We'll see if their replacements work out. But again, with the Astros, it's really been the same guys, just doing their thing. John, any thoughts on the Astros heading into this season?
I mean, it's pretty much, it's like we said on our first episode. This is, in my opinion, this division is theirs to lose, and you really can't, look at it any other way. When you look at, when you look at this division, it comes down to the Astros and everyone else. So, in a way, I think that definitely the Astros have. I think they're going to win the division. Let's just call a spade here.
Yeah, kind of somewhat not exactly similar to the Dodgers situation, but definitely the odds-on favorite to win that division. Let's move over to really an interesting team for obvious reasons. The Angels. They are starting their post-Shohei era, and God, I mean, it's really bad that kind of my first headline with this when I was kind of doing research with the teams is, okay, what do they do with Mike Trout if things go south again this year, which there's probably a good chance that they do. Like, that's the number one thing I can think of. I know he signed a massive
How many years
extension
does he have left?
but a lot.
It's not just that. It's a mountain of money is the thing too. Like, you just can't unload that sort of thing unless you're willing to take a huge pay cut out of it. And that's a big deal for the Angels to do.
The Angels just don't
they
have
can unload him maybe if they they're cursed. They're just cursed. Ever since they got like Pujols and was it Josh Hamilton and CJ Wilson around like, was it 2012 or whatever?
Wilson,
the curse of Josh Hamilton.
Just been, well, every year it feels like the problem with the Angels is they don't have pitching. So they signed some potential guys that could reach certain peaks that they had showed signs of. They come to the team and boom, either they are hurt or they just tank. For example, last year they signed Tyler Anderson to a 3-year deal, and he was coming off of the best year of his career by far. Am I right, Tyler, in saying he was with the Pirates when he did that?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Last year with the Angels, his ERA was like over 5. He was terrible. Like, whatever glimpse he showed at the Pirates, I don't know if it's the Angels organization, just whatever, that was a fluke year, and he went back to not being great. You have the whole Anthony Rendon situation as like, just who knows what's happening with that basket case of a problem right now. Now, Robert Stevenson looks like he might be hurt.
Going to Rendon, is there something wrong there with that mindset? Treating baseball like it's a job?
Without understanding, I get from just a blanket statement, it's really hard to dictate which way what he really means by that, because yes, you can see that I do believe family should come first over your job. However, the way that comment kind of came across is that he just doesn't care about the team, which can also kind of be seen if the team is put together really poorly and never truly does anything. What's the point in really doing anything? And I mean, it is a job in the end. Everyone always says it's a business, and there's crazy things that happen with signings or moves, and players like it, don't like it, whatever. So it's hard to say without truly getting to know it more, but it is a very blunt gray area comment that is probably could have been phrased better.
Yeah,
regardless of what he
you
meant.
could say
definitely.
that.
I think definitely that is
Yeah.
the case, but you also got to look at it like this. When you think about it, they literally everybody we have all played baseball growing up, and baseball is a kid's game, and you get paid millions to play a kid's game, and that's everybody's argument. You know, you how do you not love baseball? All this other stuff. In a way, baseball has been his life and has been his job since what he was old enough to walk. Probably. So it probably in a way, I guess I don't see something wrong with that mindset, but definitely rephrasing that because you're right. It does come off as, oh, I don't care. I'm here to collect my paycheck, get in, get out. I don't care at all, which is not a good mindset, especially when they're counting on him to be a leader in the organization.
And let's remember, he also kind of related to what we're saying, also just more so his potential personality. Remember, like a week into the season last year, was it leaving the A's game, going to the clubhouse, he grabbed that fan in the stands that was half heckling him, but not really saying anything major, and he basically told him to F off.
Yeah.
So
that went viral.
Like, the thing that people bring up when they talk about the Angels has been Rendon and Trout, but like, dude, Rendon's fall off is crazy. Like, you're talking about a guy that from 2017, actually, or hold on, let me see. I'm looking at stats here. From 2017 to 2019 with Washington, had an above 300 average, hit for 34 home runs in 2019, but the year before he left. And then since then, the best season he's had with the Angels was the next season. He batted 286. He only played 52 games, by the way. The most games he's played in this is the craziest stat. The most games he's played in a season with the Angels was 58 games. Like, dude,
what year was that?
It's in 2021. And
all right, not 2020. Okay.
He batted that's true. He batted 240 in 2021, 229 in 2022, and 236 last year. Like, it's insane, and they paid him so much money, and it's just it's the fall off. It's kind of been what we were just talking about with his comments and stuff. Like, that's another. I don't know when his contract goes to. Well, I don't know if you know that off the top of your head.
I think they have 3 more years. I want to say it was a 7-year deal starting in 2020.
But it's not like anybody would want to trade for him. Like,
no,
maybe he's a trade.
Yeah, they're stuck with him.
I don't even think like he's not. They're stuck with him, making himself favorable. So, literally, they're not benefited from his presence. And right, doesn't sound like he even cares to even show up to work.
So, yes, he's got 3 more years left. He will be paid $38.5 million for the next 3 years. Well, over every year. So he's making an absolute bag, but there's no production there. And again, this is just a team that it's really hard to look past. I mean, look, they have Mike Trout, who is one of the best baseball players of our generation, but dude, like, the lineup around him is horrible, especially this year. You got some names that have been okay, but like they're not like big. Like Brandon Drury for a while, like he was a great bat, but like he's not, really a compliment piece to Trout. You have Taylor Ward, who was good. Was it last year or 2 years ago? But like, dude, that roster is just not good. Like, it's really, really
is
bad.
Mike Trout the only reason people go to Angels games?
It gotta be. There's gotta be no other.
Here's
reason.
My question: when he retires, how much money are they going to lose? Dude, and are they going to wake up then?
Hopefully by then. They need the young guys.
It's right around the corner when you think about it.
Yeah, look at old 7 years from now.
They have been talking about moving Trout for so long. Like, it's like, oh, dude, like, because they had.
I think they hesitate because they know who are the fans going to come see.
I understand that, but like,
he just needs to get off the field.
Yeah, well,
But
he's
I
just
don't
not.
even know.
He's never had a supporting cast. Like, obviously, he had Shohei,
Doesn't he
and
have a
that
degenerative back disorder or something like that?
Trout.
Yeah, some
I'm
back
not
Don't we
issue
all?
popped up a couple years ago.
Uh,
Relate.
Yeah, but dude, it's really bad, and like, they had years where they had the worst rated farm system, and
right now they're
everyone's
number
like, "Oh,
27.
trade 'em." Yeah, and dude, it's like it's been. I swear to God, the conversation's the same every year. It's like our farm system sucks. We need to trade Trout. Is Trout getting traded as the season goes on? The question keeps asked. Like, I mean, Will's right. I don't know what you can, do with the circumstances, but something's got to happen here. I mean, this is a team that's not going to be very good in 2024, I believe.
The most
Yeah.
appealing thing outside of Mike Trout for the Angels is the fact that you can go across the street and go to Disneyland after the game. So let's be real here.
Well,
if the A's weren't in that division, they would be the bottom of the division.
Oh, I
and even
agree,
then,
yeah.
with
I
the
think
A's,
there
they might
is
still be.
There's
Yeah,
a reality that I can envision this season where the Angels do finish worse than
Yeah.
the A's, and it's not because the A's shoot to like 70 wins or something.
Yeah,
the Angels have that could be that bad.
I kind of had the same sentiment. We will move on to the A's now. A lot of unknowns here, obviously. Still a lot of young guys. Go ahead.
Can I share this what I wanted to share earlier?
Oh yes.
So this article is from Sportsnot.com, and this is their 10 MLB predictions for the 2024 MLB season, and these are bold predictions. And
Oh boy.
the one for the A's is that Oakland A's stay at Coliseum for 2025 through 2027 seasons. That's their.
That's what I'm talking about with this
thing.
team. That's the talking point. It's not the product on the field. It's we're betting on if they're going to be in the damn stadium for the next couple of years. Like, what are we doing?
I don't think they will. In all honesty, but we can't even talk about the team because the organization's a distraction.
I don't know, man. Like they
well, let's be the outliers here, gentlemen. Let's talk about the product.
No, I want to talk about the stadium.
I don't know if I can talk about JJ Bleday for more than like 5 seconds. I'm sorry to the guy, but like,
so this is basically what I can say for this team. They had very few subtractions and a couple veteran pitching additions. So they've at least somewhat created a veteran presence there. But this team is, for the most part, rolling out what they had last year. And of course, you're going to look at last year, and they won 50 games. 50-do. You can't get much lower than that. Is kind of the main thing. That is insanely high to me. I mean, I have them at like 61 in my prediction, I think, right now.
I mean, Pacoda has them at 64. Fangraphs is 72.
You're the guy that keeps complaining about Pacoda. Why do you keep using
Pacoda? I am going to complain about Pacoda.
Something else.
They underachieve. But still, I'm just throwing it out there, man.
So with this A's team, I feel like they can't be much worse than what they did last year. And I do like teams that tend to keep the cores together, especially when they're young, because everyone's growing and evolving together. And the fact that this group dealt with all the distractions and chaos of last year makes them at least a little better suited going into this year. It is still a talking point where they're going to play, but the state of the team and if they're going to Vegas, Salt Lake, whatever, that is kind of a thing of the past in that it's Vegas. Of course, they don't know where they're going to play next year, but there's a little bit more of just go play baseball right now. The worst is over. Just do your thing. Cross your fingers. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
When it comes to the A's, I mean, to go regarding a core, they're kind of just like slapped together puzzle piece team. They're not. It's not a core. When it comes
there's
to,
not
it's
a core,
not like the
no,
Astros,
but they're growing up together. No. But you have like Brent Rooker.
If they're a bunch of C+ players and they grow up together, it's gonna be a C+ team no matter what.
when you have a bunch of young guys that you don't know anything about, a lot of it is seeing how they evolve. You know that being an Orioles fan better than anyone.
So and look at where we were. We were with C+ players.
Yeah, but now look where you are now. Players. You have B's rising A's. You don't actually have a whole lot of A's yet. You're on the verge. Hold it back there, Sherlock.
They have D's.
But we're not talking about the Orioles. We're talking about the A's. We're not also predicting the A's are going to get 72 wins, but we're saying they're going to get in somewhere in the 60s, and maybe they get up their upper 50s and really haven't improved that much from last year. But the fact that you have a bunch of young guys that you're keeping together does help from the sense of watching them all grow together. Sure, out of this group of 8 or 9, who knows what's, if 3 of them turn out to be B players, great. You know how to evolve the team from there. You're just taking the proper steps. They're right now playing for Vegas. They're not playing for today. You just got to see who's the people you want to keep when you go to the next stadium and you really create your next, hopefully productive athletics team. Yet I have no idea if they're even going to keep the name when they move. I'm just saying that they're not going to be as bad as they were last year. And the fact that they've had experience and it being the same group should help them get better. And maybe they do get slightly better than the Angels this year. But I'm not expecting them to be like, hey, look, this year we're going to shock you all and be the Moneyball team from 22 or what was the most recent year, like 2012 or something, where they somehow made it into the playoffs with absolutely no one. That's not going to happen.
Like 95 wins, yeah.
You're going to do better than you did last year, at least.
Well, you can't do much worse.
Well, remember, we had this conversation the other day, and the Orioles showed that you can.
Yes, Orioles showed you can.
I said much. I didn't say you couldn't. I said much.
Oh, I'm just
I don't know. Dropping a single game under 50 is much worse. Seeing a big 4 at the front is awful.
There's the guy that can save the move. Brad Pitt, right there. He's the guy.
Come on, it was Jonah Hill was the real winner.
Yeah, let's bring Jonah Hill in.
I gotta say, I did not have us getting riled up the most on the Athletics on my bingo card. Let's move on to the Mariners coming.
When there's no content, you got to make content. You know,
absolutely. I am all for that. You just yell about a 50-win team from last year. The Mariners come in to the season.
Don't you tempt me!
The Mariners coming this year looking a little bit different. They do lose some pieces. The starting pitching for this team looks really good, in my opinion. Man, as we kind of talked about already, the top 3 in this division is just going to be a dogfight. I think the Astros do kind of push themselves up a little bit more than these guys, but last year was the same thing, and could be another year of that. Will, what do you feel with Mariners coming into this year with their additions and subtractions?
So pitching-wise, because that's the easiest to talk about, they're basically running out with the same group that they had last year, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. The fact that Brash's injury is not going to be extensive is a big plus for the team, and they got Gregory Santos from the White Sox, which will only help bolster the back end. Outside of that, they've pretty much been just flip-flopping, I feel like, holes that they had offensively. Last year, of course, they had Teoscar Hernandez and Eugenio Suarez in the outfield and at third base. The replacements coming into this year are Mitch Haniger and Luis Urias, who will probably platoon somewhat with Josh Rojas. The Mitch Haniger switch is very risky. I mean, he did not perform well with the Giants last year, very mediocre numbers. However, just a couple years prior from that, he was with the Mariners, and he was hitting upper 20s, low 30s in home runs. And they're basically pulling a flyer and saying, we think we can get him back to at least being around the type of player that we had when we had Teoscar Hernandez. And I really don't know how to judge that because, I mean, I can see if he was maybe really comfortable with the team, that sure, he goes back and does exactly what he did before with them. But if something happened and that's why they let him go and now they're suddenly giving him back, I'm like, what are you doing? And as for the Luis Urias replacement, I don't know. They're hoping for lightning in a bottle, it feels like, at third base. They had a big hole last year at second base when they tried to give it to was it Colton Wong to start the season? Yeah. And it just did not pan out, and they let him go, and they were mixing and matching to finish the season. But they got Jorge Polanco, and I think that is a nice addition to the offense that can help round them out there. And then they've also got Mitch Garver as a DH filler over, I guess it was like Mike Ford last year. I don't know. So they've kind of just juggled around where I feel like some of the holes were. I do think overall this team will do better than what it did last year, if only slightly. They went on a run late in the season. They were just too far out of it. But I think a big part of it, why they can have success, is the fact that the Rangers have the pitching issues to start the season. So they have to take advantage of that early. If they all struggle out of the gate like they did last year, they could be watching the postseason from their living rooms again.
I think that's a really good point with the Rangers, because I think this division is really going to come down to, can the Rangers put themselves in a good enough position to, when they do get their pitchers back, or I shouldn't say a good enough position, can they stay afloat for long enough in the race to, when they get Scherzer back, when they get DeGrom back, which is later in the year, will they be in a spot to still, make the playoffs? Because, I know it's crazy talking about a World Series champion, but I think there's a question about that, just based on the injuries right now at pitching. But as you said, looking at the Mariners, I really like Polanco. That's a nice addition. But as you kind of said, Urias at third is kind of a little bit of a wild card there. We'll see what happens. Mitch Garver's nice at DH, a little bit more reliable. And, in my opinion, I do see them, as you said as well. I agree with you. I think they do have more wins than they did last year. So we will see. John, any thoughts on the Mariners?
I'm looking at this team, and I'm looking at their competition, and I think that when it comes down to the Mariners, last year they were a young team that was really, they were clicking towards the end. I think they are fighting here with, I want to say, a little, what is as if it's unfinished business. Last year they finished 2 games behind both the Rangers and the Astros, and that going into that, there was a chance that going into the last series of the season that they could have won that division, and I think they feel like they left something out there. So I think they're going to come out hungry. Obviously, they're young. So when it comes down to this, I think the Mariners, I don't think they win the division. I think that they're a wild card team. Whether that is the second or third is TBD. Just because I think 2 teams from the AL East are going to be in the wild card again. But, when it comes down to the Mariners, to me, it's a young, hungry team that I think they're going to be coming out there with really just looking to avenge last season, and I don't see it any other way.
I also think that this Mariners team probably had a little bit of a postseason high going into last year, where they broke their drought in 2022. They made it past the first round, stunning the Blue Jays in that first game. If you remember, they came back from down 8-0, 8-1, won that game, and then won the next to sweep the series. So they probably had that. They maybe could enter 2023 a little bit. I don't want to say cocky or whatever, but maybe they had that little bit of all right, we've reached that level. We can go out and beat anyone. And they pushed a little too hard, got knocked down. And then the fact that last year they fell short, even though, as you said, John, they did have a run at the end of the season, but still finished 2 games short, even though in that final series they could have made the playoffs if they played things out differently. I do think that makes them a little wiser going into this year and better suited to make a postseason push.
100%. I think, what is the old expression? Failure is the greatest teacher. So I think that last season's failure is something that they will hopefully build off of, and this is going to be a dangerous team. I think this is going to be a team to take the Astros spot once the Astros are, eventually do fall off the top of the mountain, which we might be seeing now. We don't know, but I'm just speaking in hypotheticals here. When it looks at when you look at the Mariners, they're a young, hungry team. They clearly want success. They just need to straight up just take it. And going back to the Rangers situation with their pitching, if the Rangers get behind early, it's going to be very hard for them to catch the Mariners and the Astros in that division. So you got to look out you got to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, and let's touch on the Rangers quickly because we've kind of already said our headline with them. It is what can they do without their 2-star pitchers to start the season, and can they stay afloat long enough? Look, the lineup top to bottom is still very talented, so I do think that they're not going to fall off like crazy, but you're in a very competitive division, and we seen last year, like what the Mariners had like 88 wins and finished third. Like, I mean, that's this division's just ultra crazy in the top 3. So, can they get carried to that spot is essentially the question. Let's get into our predictions though. For this division, are we all in agreement that we have the Astros at 1, or does anybody have anything different?
Ooh, after talking about the Mariners, I don't know.
Teams.
Let's go. I don't know. After talking about the Mariners,
John goes last. John apparently needs to think about it a bit.
All right, so we'll start with you then.
I'll be the last to order my dessert. Thank you.
Ooh, I want a dessert. So I have the Astros first, and I have the Mariners second, with the Rangers third, Angels fourth, and Athletics fifth. I do have win totals for the teams. However, I'm very back and forth on the Rangers because I'm not positive I have them as a playoff team. I really need to do a deeper dive into the Rays and the Blue Jays before I say for sure. The Rangers fall into a similar situation to what I feel with the Padres. The reason they can stay afloat more is that they have a much better offense overall, the Rangers do, than the Padres, but they did not make a whole lot of additions to deal with, to like fix the subtractions. I mean, they lost Montgomery, who they could still technically bring back. They don't have Scherzer now until June, I believe, DeGrom until August. And the rotation that they have in place right now is very subpar looking. They have all these pretty much your ace, and then you have Heaney, Gray, and Dane Dunning, and I have no idea for the 5th spot. They seem to have been trying to fill out the bullpen issues that were a question mark in the postseason last year. Obviously, it didn't matter because they won it all. But they signed David Robertson and Kirby Yates. Both pitchers on the older side, both were successful last year. Robertson showed signs of slipping. Yates was on the Braves team just a couple years off of surgery. I have the Rangers right now at 87 wins in third, 3 games behind the Mariners. I do think they're going to finish there. What I will say is if they somehow do make the playoffs, they should be in the good position, though, to have another run because everyone should be healthy at that point. I just don't know if they have enough to stay afloat pitching wise.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their 5 now, and it's not. I mean, Eovaldi, as you said, kind of the ace there, but like, I don't know. It gets a little bit scary. Yeah. So I have the Astros at first, and I have win totals, but kind of same with you. I'm not like crazy, predicting like crazy, like, oh, they'll definitely have this. I have the Astros sitting at about 97 wins. I have Seattle in second, sitting at 92, and then the same thing with the Rangers. Like, dude, I do think they're third. I will say this: I don't really know about their win total. I do think they make the playoffs. I think they're the third wild card in the AL, which is really tough because you have the Yankees are going to be interesting this year because they should be good, and obviously last year was a fall off, but you could potentially have 4 teams in that division getting in the playoffs, and that's kind of always the big thing in the AL is like that division kind of puts everybody else in place. But like I said, I do think the Rangers. Yes, I agree with that. I think, like I said, the Rangers get in probably over either the Rays or Blue Jays. I would lean more toward the Blue Jays than the Rays, but I have them finishing third. By the way, I mean, really non-point but interesting point Will you brought up earlier. There's a world where I see the Angels finishing in last in this division. Like I really could, and like not to wish an injury upon Trout, but like if there's a point where they suck and like maybe he is dealing with stuff, like did they shut him down for the rest of the year and or whatever the case may be, and I could see them finishing last in this division. Like I really could. There's nothing impressive in that lineup outside of Mike Trout, and I cannot be told otherwise. But yes, I have Astros, Mariners, both making playoffs. Obviously, the Rangers slipping into that third wild card, and then I'll say Angels fourth, but it really could be a toss up between them and the Athletics for fourth and fifth. Doesn't matter too much. All right, John, let's hear it. What's your prediction?
All right, I'm gonna start from the bottom down or bottom up. Excuse me.
Bottom down. I don't know how that.
I want to know what's below down.
This man right
See,
here.
what is it from? Right. No, what is it from Moneyball? There's like the best teams. There's bad teams. There's 50 feet of crap, and then there's. I want to see that. I want to see the.
What guy? You want to know the us? You want to know the us? The Los Angeles Angels are the us. All right.
Okay.
They are below the 50 feet of crap that is the Oakland Coliseum and the Athletics. All right. So I am predicting that the Angels are going to finish with a record of 55 wins. And unfortunately, from Mr. Mike Trout, his back injury will get the best of him this season, and he will not finish the season, and will be shut down by July. That is unfortunate. I don't want to wish that on anybody, but bold prediction. I'm going to go with the A's are in fourth here. Not much better. I'm going to go 63 wins here for them. You gotta make that Vegas appeal sound look a little better to those future fans. Now, I'm then going to go the Rangers here, missing the playoffs, 85 wins. Unfortunately, I think at the early season struggles are going to get the best of them. And then I have the Astros as the potential third wild card here.
Holy moly.
Third wild card.
Yeah.
That is
third
insane.
Wild card. Yeah.
I don't know.
Third wild card here. Hold on. It's not.
All right.
It's not. The record is not bad. It is 90 wins. It is about the same they were last year. When you look at it, I think
number of wins they had last year.
Yeah. When you look at it, the Astros, I think, are starting to hit that plateau, and I think they're starting to become complacent and think we're the kings of the hill. I don't think they're as hungry as this team, which is the Mariners.
They do have a new manager. That's also something to keep in mind. They have a new manager. It's no longer Dusty.
There you go. That could be a factor here. Because that team was Dusty's team. They loved playing for Dusty. So let's put it that way. Anyway, point is that I think the Mariners, young, hungry. I'm going to go Mariners, 95 wins and an AL West crown. Those are my predictions. The lowly Angels,
and the playoff bye,
the soaring high Mariners. Oh, I didn't say that. No, did I? I didn't say that.
No, the playoff bye. No, but
I did not say that.
Let's just be frank. The AL Central is absolutely garbage.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Fair.
The winner of that division, I don't think will have 90 wins.
Bro.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm more shocked at the wild card situation. Or like, I could see the Mariners winning that division, but the third wild card for the Astros, that's kind of crazy to me, at least. Like,
I just
there's got to be some shit happening in the AL East.
John likes the Yankees enough.
That's what it means. I do. The only thing that can, in my opinion, that could stop the Yankees is, their manager, who obviously I do not think Aaron Boone's a good manager at all. Honestly, I think he should have been fired. Anyway, you're talking about the Yankees. They are so loaded. I could see them as, that first wild card, and then the Rays, I think, are always going to be there until proven otherwise in that second wild card. Just because they always figure it out. I think the Blue Jays are underachieving, but we'll cover the AL East later.
We will.
Mm-hmm.
But with that wraps us. Oh my God, wraps up. We're all having problems tonight talking. Well, Will's fine, but
Will's speak for yourself.
Yeah,
I flub my words so often. It's crazy,
dude. I like.
Hey, not as much as me. I'm gonna go order some dessert, guys. We will see you next time.
Order from the bottom of last, and you'll be good.
We will wrap it up here. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Probably the best way to contact us at BL_breakdowns. And you can find us.
And let us know your predictions.
Yeah.
Let us know your predictions for the West.
Do you have the Astros?
And why John is completely.
And obviously, we're here on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, we have a YouTube, both Big League Breakdowns. Make sure to check us out. We will be back. Our next episode 8, will be the NL and AL Central divisions, which at AL Central.
Comedy Central, here we go, boys.
That's gonna be
Comedy Central.
If we can have a big discussion and screaming tonight, I wanted a debate, and we got nothing except for the Athletics.
Yeah, that's
so if we can do that with the Athletics, I want to see what we're going to do for the next.
Well, here, hold on.
Quality baseball podcast we got.
Ty,
tune in to hear us rant about.
Can I get Will's predictions? Can I get Will's thoughts on my prediction? I just want to hear Will's thought.
For what?
I got yours
on your predictions
for the AL West. What are your thoughts?
Well, the only thing that threw me with what you said was the Astros in the third wild card spot.
Yeah,
that's about
what
it.
I said. Yeah, that's
but
insane.
I mean, but I will say, even that's not completely absurd because you had them at 90 wins, and I can see a potential Rays and Yankees slightly topping it. So I'm not that absurd with it. And also going into it, you were like, I don't know who to pick for first place. So I wonder who's gonna win the division. What a surprise would have been at the end. You're like, I'm going with the Astros. Before we
start talking about the Mariners, I was all in on the Astros. Oh, this is their division. I literally said that, and you can play back the tape, Bobby. Mm-hmm. This is their division.
You're easily swayed.
5 minutes later,
you are easily swayed.
No, I put
what happens when you don't do your research ahead of time.
No backbone, none. Absolutely.
It's not about not having a backbone. It's about looking at the statistics. All right, it's about looking at it. Mm-hmm. It's about looking at the bigger picture.
Your best friend.
The bigger picture.
Well, I know. You know why? I know next week is going to be a more entertaining than this. The Pirates are on there, and not just because it's my team. It's because I know John. John is going to come off and say some crazy shit. I just know it. Anyway, we're wrapping up here. BL_breakdowns on Twitter. We'll see you next time.